So today we're going to be looking at a scenario where Asia goes to war with the world. So every country in Asia will be going to war with every country that is not in Asia. And yeah, if you enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so here we go. We have all of Asia colored red. So I'm going to be doing a majority rules kind of thing here, where if the country is mainly in the continent of Asia, then it's going to be joining into Asia. So for example, the European border is roughly about right here. But since a majority of Russia is in Asia, it is going to be joining the Asian side. The same thing for Turkey. Majority of Turkey is in Asia, where a little bit of it is in Europe. And then for Egypt, a little tiny bit of it is in Asia, while the rest is mainly in Africa. So in this scenario, we have some unlikely allies, but that's okay because it's a continent versus the rest of the continents. This scenario may not be 100% realistic, and I apologize if it doesn't, but I'm pretty sure I know what would happen if this were to happen in real life. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing to happen in this war is obviously everyone getting mobilized, but apart from that, we have Russia pushing into eastern Ukraine. We also have Indonesia pushing over into Papua New Guinea. Turkey takes over the island of Cyprus and also starts a little push into Greece and Bulgaria. So at first, Asia is going to have the utmost advantage here since it's going to take time for all of America to get ready for the war. So places like Russia, China, and India are going to have lots and lots of success. At first, I'm pretty sure China would focus on knocking out Australia and New Zealand, while India would kind of split its troops, maybe send a little bit of troops down here to Australia, but send a majority of their troops up into the Middle East and down into Africa, whereas Russia will be sending all of their troops over into Europe. Now, if it isn't obvious already, there's going to be no nuclear bombs, because that just makes the video short, because everyone's going to die if there's nuclear bombs. So we're not using those, and instead we're just going to have all the militaries fighting. So Russia's advance into Ukraine is continued, but it is stopped as it reaches the river that kind of splits Ukraine in half. I forgot what it's called, but Kiev is like right there. In the Middle East, some big battles are being fought between Egypt and Israel, especially along the southern strip of Israel right here. It's also really weird to see Israel and Palestine on a team, but since they're both Asian countries, that's how it is. But eventually Israel and Saudi Arabia push into the Sinai Peninsula and start to push towards the main cities of Egypt. Egypt does hold back and holds on to the Suez Canal as they want to control the trade going in and out of the Mediterranean and Red Seas. Back down in Oceania, Papua New Guinea is almost completely wiped off. They only have to take over a few more islands, but the main plan to invade Australia is now being mapped out. Up north, we have Finland pushing into the Kola Peninsula, while down south, Russia is starting to push towards Helsinki. After many battles, the blue team manages to take over Kaliningrad, and the main Western European army is now getting close to the front lines. Back down in Egypt, the Israeli and Arabian armies are pushed back, while up north, Turkey continues to push into Bulgaria and Greece. Eventually, after the capture of Sofia, Bulgaria falls. Up in Belarus, Russia pushes in and captures the capital of Minsk. From here, the country of Belarus falls, and Russia's push into Eastern and Central Europe pursues. Back down in Afro-Asia, the now full Middle Eastern army is starting to push back into Egypt. This time, they managed to take the Suez Canal and make a greater push into Egypt. In Oceania, China is now making major landings on these small Pacific islands, and eventually a landing in northern Australia is made. From here, 2 more landings are made, one over here and then one over here, and a big push down into Australia is started. Back on the Kola Peninsula, Finland is continuing to make progress as they wipe out the entire undefended peninsula, and they even manage to push back Russia as the winter sets in. Speaking of winter, Russia takes out the entire Baltic area and recaptures Kaliningrad. Eventually, Kiev is taken as the Russians establish a great foothold over Eastern Europe. Both Turkey and Russia make a plan to meet up in southern Ukraine in order to cut off Romania and the rest of Ukraine from the Black Sea. This would also establish a even greater front line for Europe to deal with. So both Turkey and Russia push down and up and meet up in southern Ukraine and Moldova. From here, Russia manages to completely push back this Ukrainian army, and Moldova is captured. Turkey pushes up into Romania and captures Bucharest, and just like that, lots of progress is made on Asia's side. This did come at a cost though, as Romania, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, and Greece managed to push back Turkey just a little bit. Back over in Australia, the Chinese invasion is going very well, as the Chinese troops are avoiding the outback and moving down the well-populated coast. Back in Egypt, now with Indian troops, Asia manages to push through and capture Cairo and Alexandria. With this, Asia now moves down the Nile River and starts to capture even more major Egyptian cities. After losing about all of their population, Egypt falls. So now we have a major power which has now been knocked out of the war. So once again, with the biggest power in Africa out, we can probably assume that Africa is now going to start to fall pretty quickly. This doesn't mean that they're going to be wiped out completely. It just means that Asia is going to be showing a lot more progress than they had previously. So Asia's push into Africa continues, now pushing over the border and into Libya. They also continue to push down the Nile River and threaten major cities in Sudan. Back over in Australia, the Asian landing continues to go well as they are starting to now push down south towards the capital of Australia. Back in Europe, we can see the pushback of Finland, and we can also see that Russia's push into Europe is slowly starting to halt. This is because troops and supplies in America are now starting to arrive in Europe. At first, Russia isn't really stopped that much, but eventually, after being pushed back a little bit, their advance is halted. Back over in Australia, the Asian team manages to capture Canberra. And with this, we have the surrender of Australia. From here, the red team makes plans to invade New Zealand, which shouldn't take very long. And after that, all of East Asia can now focus their military on the west. Speaking of the west, the blue team is now starting to push back Russia just a little bit, as the reinforcements from America have arrived. We also see Finland pushing back Russia, and also starting another push into the Kola Peninsula. In Oceania, a landing in New Zealand has started, as the Asian team manages to quickly take out New Zealand from the war. And like I said, with this, East Asia is now going to reorganize their troops and send them out to the west, which isn't good for the blue team, who is now starting to push back Russia even harder in hopes of knocking them out of the war before China is ready. So the blue team starts the biggest military advance in history, going into Russia. With this, they meet up with Finland and St. Petersburg, and the full-scale Russian invasion is started. Now keep in mind, this isn't the blue team doing this casually. This is the blue team putting everything they've got into this front. Like I said, they hope to knock out Russia before China is ready, giving them an advantage over them. They could also use the manpower and equipment from Russia in order to push back China. But this doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to succeed at this, as their front is now being slowly halted. During this time, they capture Istanbul from Turkey, and the blue team manages to capture this much land from Russia and Turkey. Back down in Africa, the red team is pushing further into Sudan and manages to capture the capital of the country. And a push into Eritrea, Ethiopia, and South Sudan is started. The red team's plan for Africa is to take out East Africa and then push along the Mediterranean coast and wipe out North Africa. Over in Russia, the blue team continues to make slow progress against them as they manage to cut off the rest of Russia from the Caucasus area. From here, a small advance into Kazakhstan is made, but there really is no use pushing further into Kazakhstan as the country is not a main priority of the blue team. Eventually, the blue team starts getting closer and closer to Moscow until the Battle of Moscow happens, which in turn results in a red team victory as the Russian army from Siberia is now pushing back. Now, when it comes to the season, it is winter. So with the Russian winter kicking in, the blue team has trouble pushing back other than Finland, who is used to it, but Russia easily manages to recapture the Caucasus area and push back the red team. Russia takes back St. Petersburg and pushes back the blue team even further. Now the East Asian troops are arriving over here in Russia, and the main push into Europe is going to be started. At first, the Russians start a slow advance, but eventually the process is sped up as Chinese and Indian troops are helping out. We also see down in Istanbul that Turkey manages to push out the blue team and starts another push back into Greece and Bulgaria. In Africa, Eritrea and Djibouti are completely wiped out, and the capital of Ethiopia is captured. So now Asia has a hold over all of East Africa, giving them a big advantage against the rest of Africa. We also see Asia starting an even bigger push into Europe, this time capturing more land than they have ever had. Eventually, the red team is halted as the blue team has set up a secure defensive against Asia. Up north though, Russia shows great success against Finland, capturing Helsinki and eventually wiping out the country. From here, they start to push down into Sweden and up into Norway. In Africa, the Middle East makes a push into Libya and capturing the capital, and then pushing up and capturing Tunis. And with this, we have Asia starting to slow down just a little bit as resources are starting to deplete. Now, resources aren't completely gone, they're just starting to run low on what they once had. The same can be said for the blue side, although they do have the advantage as they are playing defense and not offense. So given it a couple more years, this is what Asia manages to capture away from Europe. So we have lots of success over here in Scandinavia, and over here in Central Europe, they have made even more improvements. Down in Africa, we don't see much improvement for Asia, as they haven't really been focusing on the area. From here, I could probably see the Asian team pushing out Norway and Sweden, and possibly pushing into Germany and Italy. I can also see them pushing into Central and Eastern Africa, capturing all the coast and the Saharan Desert. Asia might be able to take out both Europe and Africa, but then they'd have to face all of the Americas, so that would be the hard part for them. But just like that, I'm going to leave it at this. We're going to take a look at a possible peace treaty between the two sides, but it isn't going to be anything too crazy. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, so taking a look at a possible peace treaty for scenario number 1, we have Russia occupying a majority, if not all, of Eastern Europe and Finland. Down south, we have Turkey taking over Greece, Bulgaria, and a little bit of Romania. Israel takes over a little bit of land from Egypt. Indonesia occupies Papua New Guinea. And China takes over all of Australia. So this is what would most likely happen if the war ended at the stalemate. Now let's take a look at a scenario where the blue team manages to push back and recaptures a lot of their lost lands. And here's a scenario where the blue team pushes back and manages to win. So starting off with Finland, who captures all this land from Russia, moving down to Estonia and Latvia, who gains lands in the east. We have Poland taking over Kaliningrad and Belarus extending east, as well as Ukraine. Egypt occupies southern Israel, Jordan, and a little bit of Saudi Arabia. Papua New Guinea takes over the rest of New Guinea, and Australia gets these southern Indonesian islands. Now, there would probably most likely be other occupations, such as the US occupying land in Russia or China, and vice versa, China occupying land in the Americas, or something like that. I just decided not to include that and just get the base borders down. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.